Remuneration, benefits and bonuses. A lot of this is kind of focused on, oh no, things you can do to protect yourself if the relationship goes wrong. But actually, what can you do to actually secure that relationship right at the beginning and be clear on it? I think the amount of times we see a lot of cases with someone saying, oh, when at the beginning of that, he promised to pay me, £15,000 bonus if I did X, and I did X, and he hasn't paid up. Again, come back to the question, what does it say in the contract about that? Oh, there wasn't a contract, he just said it down the pub over a pint. Not really much use. So very important to be very clear on remuneration, benefits, bonuses and things. But also be willing to think out of the box a bit. At the moment, it's quite a competitive marketplace. You as the employers, though, have quite a lot of negotiating power. But if you're really enticing the kind of best candidates, do think out of the box a bit in terms of what you can potentially offer them to incentivise them into the business. Think about what's important to staff as well. I don't know if any of you ever tried or been involved in or seen an employee engagement survey. It's quite a powerful tool. A lot of businesses will use those and say, well, what is most important to you? You'd be surprised quite often by the results that you get back. A lot of people, it's things that are completely cost neutral. Things like, more flexible working arrangements, bits and pieces like that can be more important to people than pure money on the table sometimes. Bonus incentive plans. There are a wealth of different types of bonus incentive plan that you can actually use. Long-term incentive plans, short-term incentive plans. But critical in terms of the way that they're worded. Holidays and sickness absence. Always a problem. The amount of calls I get that are, oh, we've got someone off on long-term sick, it's a nightmare, what can we do about it? Again, what does it say in your contract? And this is a classic one that people tend to skip over and not give a lot of thought about. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's SSP only, so we don't have to worry about a clause in the contract. Yes, you still should, because there are a lot of things that you can do and should have in your contract to protect you. If you do operate a contractual sick pay scheme, even more important that you get that right in the contract. But certainly having strict limits on contractual sick pay each year. I've seen some very badly drafted ones that kind of say you get 3 months full paid sick pay, whatever, each year, every 6 months. Do think about that. Contractual sick pay conditional upon sickness reporting procedure compliance and medical assessment. So you can say, actually, you only get contractual sick pay if you comply to the letter with this policy and you go and see a doctor that we elect. Having return to work interviews and evidence of illness, you can be quite stern in terms of what you ask for from employees in terms of compliance. Holidays, limiting the number that can be taken at once. Preventing carryover of holiday, except in certain cases. Requirement to take holiday during notice periods. Statutory holiday deemed taken first. Holiday and sickness is a bit of a hot topic. Lots of case law around that at the moment. But actually, you can do a lot in the employment contract to help yourself in those circumstances, to give yourself better protection. Anti-corruption bribery, a very important one these days, because if you don't get it right, then you can be sent to prison for it. So definitely worth thinking about that. Bribery Act 2010, basically if you don't take adequate steps to prevent bribery as a business, then you can end up in a lot of trouble, essentially. Defence there is that you did all you could to prevent bribery, effectively. There's an importance of top-down commitment to that, and they want to see evidence of people using and enforcing it. But actually, having a clause in the contract saying, effectively, you have to comply with our bribery policy, and having a bribery policy in place is giving you a pretty good defence there, really. Temporary layoff and short-term working. This is quite an important one, particularly in the current climate. It's still moderately rare in a lot of sectors to see temporary layoff, short-term working clauses. But actually, more and more people come to us saying, oh, we've got a temporary kind of drop-off. We don't think it's going to last that long, but we want to send them all home for a day. Can we do that? No, not really. Not unless your contract provides that you can. You can have a temporary layoff or short-term working clause in your contract that basically gives you the contractual right to say, actually, if things drop off, we can temporarily lay you off or put you on reduced hours for a set period of time. Absolutely critical for it to be in the contract, though, so definitely think about that. If yours is the type of industry that does see those fluctuations, where it would be useful to have a provision like those. And finally, as I said yesterday, this might be an interesting one for quite a lot of you guys, actually. Announced yesterday by George Osborne, this plans for owner-employee employment contracts. Now, obviously, because it was only announced yesterday, devil will probably be in the detail to a large degree. But effectively, it's allowing new employees to waive their employment rights for, in return, basically, for owner-employee status. So they get shares in the company in return for that, which are going to be exempt from capital gains between 2,000 and 50,000. Oh dear, my spacing this morning wasn't that great, was it? What happens in return for that is that they lose their rights to claim unfair dismissal, a redundancy payment, no right to request flexible working, and they would have to provide at least 16 weeks' notice of their return from maternity, when it's only 8 at the moment. It's going to be optional for existing employees, but both established companies and new startups are able to choose to require new employees to enter into that type of contract. What George Osborne said is he envisages this principally intended for fast-growing, small and medium-sized companies. So effectively exactly what a lot of the people in the science park are going to be looking at. What they've said is they're going to legislate later in the year to enable companies to use these new employment contracts from as early as April next year, so pretty quick coming into force. Presumably this is going to be via the kind of Enterprise and Regulatory Reform Bill. As yet, we don't have a huge amount of detail on it, obviously, but certainly worth, if you are a small, medium-sized company and are particularly worried about unfair dismissal claims, etc., this may be a really useful little avenue for you. I was talking about remuneration and benefits. As I was saying, what better way to incentivise some staff than giving them some kind of shareholding and interest in the business? So definitely one worth keeping an eye out for and considering whether it might be a good one for you and your businesses.